So we've heard about these stories. We know about these various figures in Islamic history, and you can go and look up and be inspired by these scholars who stood up and spoke truth to power. But when you think about the punishment that they sustained, oh, just got whipped, got beat up, okay, that got roughed up, okay, that's hard. Let me tell you a story about one that was on its monstrosity level. It took it to a whole new level. And this is Imam Abu Bakr an-Nabulsi. A lot of people haven't heard about this. And it's available in Siyar Alam an-Nubala, and it's available in the different biographical accounts for Muslim scholars. Imam Abu Bakr an-Nabulsi, or as he was known, Abu Bakr al-Ramli, Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Sahl ibn Nasr, he was a scholar of hadith. And this Imam, during his time, the Fatimites were the ones that were fighting to take control over things, and they were in power. And they had it as a state policy. The Fatimites were an extremist Shia ruler group, and they were calling people to their extremist version of Shia Islam. And they were doing it in an aggressive way, and they were making it compulsory on the people to convert. So the masses in Egypt and Sham region, though, at the time, which is where the Fatimites were taking hold of power, the masses were Sunnis. Many Hanbalis, many Shafi'is, many Malikis. To achieve their goal, the Fatimites ended up forcing because of the scholars were afraid for their lives and they just didn't want to obey this. Many of the scholars actually fled the cities that they were coming into. The scholars that remained, they were forced to curse the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So if you didn't want to do this, if you stayed and didn't do it, you got killed as a scholar or got put in jail. And if you didn't want to do this and didn't want to go to jail or get killed, you just fled. So a lot of them did that. And Imam Abu Bakr an-Nabulsi was one of those people who fled. He left Ramla and he went to Damascus. Now, soon, Sham fell to the Fatimites. And it fell to Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah, the ruler at the time. It's just as a funny side note, Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah, the ennobler of the religion of God. That's the translation of this name. It's like a name given to somebody who does not deserve it. But anyways, so Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah, when he took over Sham region and started, all the different cities started to fall for him, he banned the Taraweeh prayers in Ramadan, and he banned the Duha prayer, and he commanded people to convert to his version of Shia, extremist Shia Islam. Now, Imam an-Nabulsi was one of the Sunni scholars who called to resist and fight the Fatimites. And he had a famous phrase that was quite known, very well known amongst the people, which is, he said, if I had 10 arrows, in my hand, I would shoot 9, 1 at the Romans and 9 at this tyrant. And he's referring to Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah. Whenever Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah's name came up, he said, if I had 10 arrows in my hand, I would shoot 1 at the Romans and 9 at this tyrant. Now, when Damascus fell, Imam an-Nabulsi was captured. And he was put into a wooden cage, and he was transported to Cairo, where he was brought to Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah. And he asked him, we heard you said that if a man had 10 arrows, that he must shoot 1 at the Romans and 9 at us. Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah was, of course, angry. The Imam said, I didn't say it like that. So Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah got a little bit joyous, jubilant, elated, was happy. He thought that Imam an-Nabulsi was afraid now, and he was going to go back on his words. So he paused for a second, and then he looked at him and said, okay, well, how did you say it then? Expecting him to retract his statement and say something totally different. The Imam replied very aggressively, and he said, if a man had 10 arrows in his hand, he must shoot 9 at you, and then the 10th as well. So he made an amendment to his phrase where not even 1 goes to the Romans. All 10 should be shot at this Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah. So the Al-Mu'izz li Dinillah was surprised, and he asked, why so? The Imam responded and said, because you've changed the religion of the Ummah. You've killed the righteous. You put out divine light. And you claimed for yourselves what's not yours. So everybody heard this. Everybody saw the immense disrespect that Al-Mu'izz al-Din experienced here. So what does he say? He called on the Imam to be defamed on the first day. So take him on a mule backwards across the streets of Cairo and have everybody know who this person is and shame him publicly. That's day one. On day two, and so he was telling him, are you going to go back on your word? Are you going to change your statement? He wasn't changing his statement. On the second day, he had him whipped in the public square in front of everyone to see, very severely. At the end of the day, will you change your phrase? No, he won't. Continues on. On the third day, it gets ugly. And Mu'izz al-Din commands the skinning, the live skinning of Imam an-Nabulsi in the public square. So he ordered to find a butcher who would do this. So of course they go around, they try to look for butchers. They can't. Most butchers are Muslim and they we're not going to do this to Imam an-Nabulsi no matter what you do to us. We are not going to skin Imam an-Nabulsi for you. So they find one butcher. He was a Jewish butcher who accepted to take the task. And so he started off where Imam an-Nabulsi's hair split on the side. And he started to skin him in front of people. So Imam an-Nabulsi, as he's being skinned alive, he says, كان ذلك في كتاب ربك مسطورا كان ذلك في كتاب ربك مسطورا كان ذلك في كتاب ربك مسطورا. Just kept repeating this end of the verse 58 in Surah Al-Isra, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this was written in your Lord's ordinance. That was written in your Lord's ordinance. That was written in your Lord's ordinance. It's already written in the decree. كان ذلك في كتاب ربك مسطورا. So he kept repeating this as a mantra, as like an invocation, as he's being skinned. When the skin reached below the shoulder, at the humerus, the butcher felt that he's had his limit. He felt like he couldn't tolerate any more of what he was doing. So he stabbed him in the heart. He stabbed Imam an-Nabulsi in the heart to put him out of his misery. Did Al-Mu'izz al-Din feel satisfied at this? Of course he didn't. He ordered the body of Imam an-Nabulsi to be disemboweled and then stuffed with hay and then strung up on a cross and hung up there for a few days for everybody to see. Now, I want you to just take a second and imagine this happening. This great Imam of Hadith, many of the major scholars of Hadith studied under him. This is how his life ended, for speaking against a tyrant. And the way that it ended, in a very public way, made into a spectacle, is basically to send a message to anybody else who wants to step out of line. This is what's going to happen to you.